It wasn't too long ago, and it still happens sometimes in old-time America, where when something great happened, Lindbergh crosses the ocean, a team wins the World Series, a Super Bowl champion comes home, we hold a parade for it in celebration. How about a celebration of the game we love? How about a Pigskin Parade? Yes, we're going to go back almost 90-some years to talk about the Pigskin Parade that came in syndication in your local newspapers and the history of football that it told. We're going to reinvigorate the Pigskin Parade coming up in just a moment.
This is the Pigskin Daily History Dispatch, a podcast that covers the anniversaries of American football events throughout history. Your host, Darren Hayes, is podcasting from America's North Shore to bring you the memories of the gridiron, one day at a time.
Hello, my football friends. This is Darren Hayes of PigskinDispatch.com. Welcome once again to the Pig Pen, your portal to positive football history. And before we get into today's episode, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Right now, you can enjoy all the latest of the Pigs Pen from Pigskin Dispatch. And also, check us out at PigskinDispatch.com. Hit our subscribe there, and you make sure you have all your latest articles that are coming out. We have multiple articles and posting each and every day, both from our podcasts, our YouTube channels, and just some written ones that we're bringing back, to put in there some Hall of Famers from the College and Pro Football Hall of Fame spotlights on their birthdays, and some other great fun, like what we're going to talk about today. And today, we're going to put football on parade. As a matter of fact, the Pigskin Parade. Now, back in 1939, a syndicated series came out. This is one that I found on newspapers.com from the Cleveland Plain Dealer. They published 35 episodes of a little comic strip of football history called the Pigskin Parade. It was images and informational posts that had 3 to 5 frame cells during the 1939 season to educate the readers about football history. And what a great thing that is. That's what we're doing here. So we want to salute this and, reinvigorate this great series, because it had a really talented author and illustrator. And we tried to do a little research on it, trying to figure out, because they really never gave a lot of credit to who illustrated and who wrote these things out. So talking with our friend Timothy Brown of footballarchaeology.com, he says that he found a Pigskin Parade that was in the 1960s that was honoring the callback of the 1939s. The series author was a guy by the name of Jerry Brondfield, and an unknown talented illustrator. Now, that same series came out in the 1969 series called 100 Years of Football, which was also released in a book form and was followed up by some newspaper posts. And Tim posted about that on Football Archaeology probably 4 or 5 years ago. We have a link in the article on Pigskin Dispatch, so you can follow that. Also, you can get a closer look at these cells that we're going to talk about from the Pigskin Parade number 1 that tells about the early beginnings of American football, and which we'll be talking about tonight. These hand-drawn sketches were published in multiple frames each day, introduced readers about significant gridiron people and events and teams. And over the coming days and weeks, we're going to try to reinvigorate this and bring football history to you through the light of these lenses of these great images of this illustrator and Mr. Brondfield that wrote some brilliant work and told some football history, and we're going to try to add to it a little bit. Maybe we'll disagree with them a little bit too. We've learned a lot about football history in the last 80 some years. Maybe Mr. Brondfield didn't have all the information. Maybe he did. Maybe he was spot on, and we'll share that with you. But what a great fun way to educate, just like people did many moons ago, just from their local fish wrap. Now, football originated in Europe as rugby and association game. We've talked to Dr. Tony Collins about this. We talked to Dr. Spencer just a few weeks ago as they told us quite a bit about the rugby game and association soccer game and all the disciplines of football around the world. And it really started to become popular in the United States in 1862 when Garrett Smith Hiller organized a group of Yale students to play a game using the rules that were reasonably similar to those of soccer. Still, the game was often more than of an excuse to beat up on the first-year students and hazing event, if anything else. The freshmen would go out there, and the seniors and upperclassmen would just come out and just abuse these poor saps that were coming into school, and that was part of the rite of passage into school at that time. Now, the football game became popular in the Eastern colleges on November 6, 1869. An intercollegiate game was played between Princeton and Rutgers, and this game day was very similar to rugby, but it had 20 players on a field on each team during the action. And it was kind of a really unique instance in there. Sometimes we go and, it's called the first football game is celebrated. We just recently had November 6th. We had it in our most recent football history headlines for November 6th. But we also, recognize that it was probably more of a game of soccer, as Timothy Brown has come on and told us about that quite a bit, about that fine instance coming up. But we have had some really great entertaining pieces about this exciting game, and this is really a different way to look at it here on the Pigskin Parade. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, maybe if you get a chance, pull up pigskindispatch.com, type in the search bar under Pigskin Parade and look up episode 1 here. If you're on the YouTube channel, we're showing it up on screen right now with this great first cell image. It has a caption that says, American Collegiate Football was born November 6, 1869, when Princeton accepted Rutgers' challenge. Teams had 25 men to a side. English Association rules were used, differing from rugby by forbidding running with or passing the ball. Spectators sat on fences. Only a semblance of uniforms were worn, red turbans worn by Rutgers, which won the spirited kicking game 6-4. In a second contest a week later, Princeton won 8-0. So here we have some football history. So, we are airing this podcast on November 14th. So almost a week ago and many moons, many years earlier, November 6th was that first game. And of course, yesterday, November 13th, we celebrated the second game where the first football uniforms were worn. There was the red turbans that they were talking about here in this first cell. Just a great piece of artwork here by the illustrator, and, just a great scene there. Now, scene 2 of our Pigskin Parade first episode has a caption, some great imagery again, but it says, in 1872, Princeton drew up football's first written code. The field was to be 500 by 300 feet, goalposts were 25 feet apart, and teams were limited to 25 players. Tripping and shoving were barred. Holding was also banned, except when players had the ball in his possession. Now, doesn't that tell a tale right there? So this is 1872, 150 some odd years ago to our modern game, and they're still playing, rugby-ish soccer game. We really don't have our modern football inklings into that yet. As we takes us to the third cell in this, it says that Harvard and Yale drew up their own rules, but in 1873, all agreed upon strictly kicking game. Thus, it was more of a game of soccer in 1873. And, we're going to take it into the next episode where we're going to talk a little bit more about rugby. And, just like Dr. Tony Collins and Dr. Spencer had told us earlier, Dr. Spencer Casimir, had told us, a few weeks ago that the rugby game came from Soccer Association. Rugby came from the rugby school, and, had some different rules, some different balls were used, and a lot of fun. But football came from both of these, as you can see here in early football in the 19th century, shortly after the Civil War of America. Think about that for a second. That puts everything into perspective, how old these games truly are, and started the evolution of our game of football that we love so much. So hope you enjoyed this little bit of football history. We're going to be coming back with multiple parts, and we're going to cover all 35 of these here before we're done. But we're sharing this great artwork and some great history in the newspaper that shares the history of a game we love, of American football history. So stay tuned for some more of these Pigskin Parades as we come out with episode 2 coming up real soon. And like we said, hit the like and subscribe. Go on pigskindispatch.com and subscribe there, and you'll know right when we're going to post that second one. And we'll give you some also some postings and some heads up here on this Pigskin Dispatch podcast. So until the next time, everybody, have a great gridiron day. That's all the football history we have today, folks. Join us back tomorrow for more of your football history. We invite you to check out our website, pigskindispatch.com, not only to see the daily football history, but to experience positive football with our many articles on the good people of the game, as well as our own football comic strip, Cleat Marks Comics. Pigskindispatch.com is also on social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget the Pigskin Dispatch YouTube channel to get all of your positive football news and history. Special thanks to the talents of Mike and Gene Monroe, as well as Jason Neff for letting us use their music during our podcast.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.